Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. In this raid video I want to talk about uncommon champions. It is 2025, are any uncommon champions still worth leveling up and using? Because the game has changed, and as an example of that, thank you Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video and for giving me this wonderful promo link you can find down below in the description. You can find it the QR code that gives a new account, Deacon Armstrong after the tutorial, Uugo at 15, Tagoar at 20, Mausoleum Mage at 30, the best possible start to raid. And that is one of the main reasons why uncommons are maybe not as hot as they may have been earlier, because these creator promo links have really improved, and this is the best one. And new player promo codes have also really improved. Like right now you can get Tholin or you can get Tuhanarak. So you can get some really sweet champions from the promo link, from the promo code. That means that you're going to start with a team full of epics, a strong legendary, and then of course you get Kale as your starter champion. You can also pick others, but you probably want to pick Kale. So with all of those champions filling more than a team full of slots, then what room is there for uncommons anymore? Uncommons do have some upsides. First of all, they are easy to acquire. You're going to get them from shards, of course. You can buy them from the market, for example. Some of them are also available from the campaign. They are easy to upgrade because you can get their skills by feeding them duplicates. So you have an uncommon champion and you get multiple copies of that, and you can just feed the other copies to use as skill tomes. So you don't have to spend actual skill tomes on uncommon champions. You can use those duplicates and then you can get maxed skills on those, and maxed skills are valuable. However, as downsides, the uncommon champions have fewer skills than rares, epics and legendaries, and they have weaker skills typically. So like you can have 15% speed reduction instead of 30% speed reduction, that sort of thing. They just aren't as strong. And also uncommon champions have lower base stats. The best gear in the game is percentage based, so you get attack percentage for an attacker or defense percentage gear for a defender. And that means that when you have lower base value, that gear also helps you less. So it further increases the gap. Uncommon champions are just left behind because their gear doesn't do as much for them as it does for better champions. However, flat stats are still going to be worse for uncommon champions than percentage-based gear, so there is that. But with all those downsides, some minor upsides, are there any uncommons worth acquiring? And actually, even in 2025, the answer is yes, because you really should get this fellow, the best uncommon, and it's Armiger. Armiger has low base stats, but he is still a strong champion. You still can consider taking Armiger all the way to 60. You want to take it at least to 50, probably even to 60, because Armiger has some sweet skills. Only 2 skills, it's an uncommon champion, but A1, 30% turn meter reduction if the hit is critical. Well, that also implies that Armiger requires 100% crit rate, which you might not be able to give him immediately when you start the game. But that's okay, because Armiger is going to help you a lot in the first weeks and even in the first months, and it's going to be playable even for years. And his A2 ability, max HP damage, and also enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. So 2 really sweet things. Max HP damage. That means that the damage does not depend on your Armiger, it depends on the opponent. So you hit a boss with that, and that boss is going to hurt. So this remedies much of the weaknesses of being an uncommon. However, Armiger requires a fair bit of gear. You need 100% crit. Then you need enough accuracy so that your turn meter reduction actually lands. It depends on the encounter how much accuracy you need. Then you kind of want to have some speed so that the Armiger can reduce the turn meter often enough. And then the Armiger would also have to survive, so you would need HP and defense. So the gearing requirements are fairly steep, but even an early game account is able to gear Armiger in like a month or so. So Armiger is still absolutely worth taking into many encounters. Spider, useful in Fire Knight, useful in Doom Tower. So as you start doing Doom Tower, your very first things in Doom Tower, then Armiger can really help you with some of the bosses. Beyond Armiger, uncommons have much less to offer, but there is another uncommon that I would recommend for every account, and that uncommon is Saurus. I just love Saurus. Saurus is so awesome. So Saurus can be a fast campaign farmer. There are videos on YouTube you can find where Saurus is just going through campaign 1, hitting all the waves and just campaign farming in under 10 seconds. But realistically, not early on, and that's partially because Saurus is an uncommon, so Saurus has lower stats, so Saurus needs even more gear than something like a rare or epic would do. Saurus does have 1244 base attack at level 60 and fully ascended, and that is high for an uncommon. But he still needs very strong gear to farm the campaign, so it's not something that you can do early on. To be honest, I actually tried on one of my accounts. And what if I make Saurus my campaign farm? But no, just don't have the gear to do that. However, Saurus's both skills are area attacks, and that's very rare. So that means that whenever a Saurus is going to attack, he's going to hit all the enemies. If it's a counter attack, he hits all the enemies. Regular attack, he hits all the enemies. So on a new account, Saurus is going to carry your Lizardman faction wars. He's going to be extremely good there. He's going to be really strong in early Spider, because he's just going to continuously whack those Spiderlings. And also Saurus's A2 does bring heal reduction, so if you really need to, you can use Saurus in Spirit Keep to bring some heal reduction for you. So Saurus is well worth taking to level 50. There's many uses for it, and it's just a fine champion, even though all of those videos about how you can use Saurus as a campaign farmer, you won't be able to do that in your first months at all. So that's kind of like just niche, having a fun type of use. But beyond those two, there's really no good reason for all accounts to level up any other uncommon champions in 2025. There are still some uncommon champions that can have uses. They have some niche uses. So if your champion pool is lacking some critical skill, then maybe you have some reason to take these into 50, for example, so that they can start doing some things. But generally, I just wouldn't, because you get so many epics and legendaries now right at the start, so you just don't benefit from these nearly in the same way. The first of these, the rest that are somewhat useful, is Skinner. Skinner has an A1 attack that triple hits, so that's great for Fire Knight, great for taking down that shield, and an A2 attack that removes 2 buffs from the target. So think about Magic Keep, Arcane Keep, Spirit Keep. Many of these potion keeps, you want to remove those buffs. If you don't have anything else that removes buffs, well, Skinner actually is pretty good at that. So Skinner can definitely do some things for you. And another one is Outlaw Monk. Outlaw Monk has some like really ridiculously high scores on Hell Hades website, for example, for Demon Lord. It's not that good in Demon Lord. So don't get fooled, don't get into thinking that, hey, this is going to be better than legendaries and stuff. No, it's not. However, Outlaw Monk does have a niche specifically in Clan Boss, in the Demon Lord encounter, because Outlaw Monk's A1 gives it a chance to get an extra turn, and A2 applies 2 copies of Strong Poison, the 5% poison. Usually uncommons have the 2.5% poison, the weak poison, but Outlaw Monk has the Strong Poison, 2 applications, so Outlaw Monk actually is capable of doing Clan Boss damage. However, Outlaw Monk doesn't deal as much Clan Boss damage as something like Kayle does, and it pales in comparison to many of the legendaries. So Outlaw Monk, I would say that there is a scenario where you get an Outlaw Monk to level 50 if you really don't have any other DPS apart from Kayle, and you want to tackle the Demon Lord, you want to get into Clan Boss fight, then Kayle plus Outlaw Monk can form your first pair of DPS, and then you fill in with some of those support champions. So Outlaw Monk may have some uses there, but typically you would be able to pick up some other strong DPS, and then Outlaw Monk just doesn't have anything to do, because that one encounter is the only place where it's really good. Another uncommon that you can find videos of on YouTube is the Zephyr Sniper. Zephyr Sniper has an AoE attack on its A1, and AoE attack on A1 is good. If you counterattack, you hit everything. So Zephyr Sniper has been used to tank Spider, so that Spiderlings attack Zephyr Sniper, and Zephyr Sniper needs to have masteries, it needs to have the right sort of gear, then it attacks back, and it lifesteals, and yeah, so actually just setting that up is so complex that you're probably going to have like an adequate HP burn champion by the time that you get to that point. But there's some possibility to use Zephyr Sniper, but typically you just wouldn't. And a bit of the same thing with Shieldguard. Shieldguard has some self-cleanse abilities. He has an A2 attack with AoE that also increases his own turn meter. So, yeah, like Minotaur, Ice Golem, there are some uses for Shieldguard potentially, but typically there just isn't. Because do remember the base stats are so low, so you're going to just have better champions, almost certainly. And finally, a shout out to Dervish. Dervish is pretty sweet for an uncommon because she has some really, really sweet multipliers. Dervish hits like a truck, but Dervish also cannot stay alive. So if you look at, hey, Dervish could do lots of damage to clan boss, but she needs to be basically in an unkillable team or she's dead all the time. So, yeah. And when you have an unkillable team, then is this your best option for DPS? No, it's not. But Dervish is tremendously fun when she can stay alive because she can really deal damage. She can deal damage like an epic, maybe damage like a legendary. So that's the thing she has going, but she just dies instantly. She doesn't survive at all, which is the downside. But some fun things that you can do with Dervish, but typically you just don't need that either. Which means that leaves Armiger as the top pick, then Saurus. Saurus has some really sweet things it can do. Then Skinner and Outlaw Monk are the next most useful because they are the ones that are most likely going to play a role that you don't have early on and you want to have early on, and then you can just level one of those if you really need to. And then Zephyr Sniper, Shieldguard, Dervish. More for niche, just having fun kind of things, because even though they can do things, then just setting them up into a position where they can do those things typically means that you already have a lot more resources that could do the thing even better. But hey, that's the state of uncommons in Raid in 2025, and yeah, that Armiger, just get Armiger still in 2025. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.